Thank you very much for inviting me. And my name is Paul Ceruzzi. I'm a curator at the Air and Space Museum. And I could obviously talk for hours about this and try to condense my talk. I'm going to concentrate on just a few things about GPS. You all probably know about GPS. You've heard about it. You use it. It's probably in your cars and all that sort of thing. It's standard equipment now. One of the things that I think most people are very surprised about is that GPS, we all know that it has a military origin. In fact, its origins were right here at the Naval Research Laboratory in Anacostia, primarily in the 1970s. But we also know it for civilian use. As I mentioned, that it's in your car. You can find a Thai restaurant, it's probably, or use Yelp reviews or something like that. And yet it's the same set of satellites that the military uses to target terrorists in Afghanistan or wherever, or to navigate across the ocean. The same satellites, slightly different signals, but it's the same system. And I want to point out that military and civilian applications have always been connected. Lighthouses, obviously, radio beacons. This is a beacon that was a set of radio towers in Arlington, Virginia. They were taken down in the late 30s when the National Airport was built and moved to Annapolis. Bowditch's navigation tables are in modern form, are still in use, and they're available to anybody. So that's not new. What may be surprising, however, is the way civilian applications are intertwined with military. This is a receiver. Maybe after I'm done with the talk, I'll donate it to the National Collection. I purchased it right up the road at REI next to Union Station. And you'll notice, let me just deconstruct a few things here. GPS and GLONASS. GLONASS is a system originated by the Soviet Union to copy the American system. It fell into disuse after the collapse of the Soviet Union, but thanks to Vladimir Putin and some oil revenue, it was resurrected. Now this receiver can pick up both GPS and Russian satellites. They're very similar in their architecture. And they pick the best signals. And pretty soon this will also be combined with Galileo, which is a system designed by the European Union, now under construction. It's almost ready to go. Another copy of GPS. It's coming along a lot later, so it has a lot of superior features, but it's basically the same architecture as GPS. And also China, Baidu is also under construction. So for obvious reasons, if you're an American serviceman in Afghanistan, you don't want to be relying on a Russian satellite system to get your job done. But if you're a civilian hiker on the Appalachian Trail or someplace around here, you can use the best. Let me just quickly move on. WAAS and EGNOS, those are geostationary satellites that augment GPS. Wide Area Augmentation System is situated over North America, or the Americas. European Geostationary Navigation Overlay Service, a nice mouthful there, over Europe. So those are also available. So an interesting combination of things that are available to everybody here. Okay, so a very, very quick history. There were many, many competing navigation systems, not just celestial, but also radio, LORAN, Omega. You've seen these towers at airports, VOR, and they were, depending on where you were, if you were a soldier on the ground, if you're a sailor at sea, if you're flying over friendly territory, if you're flying over enemy territory, you have all these different systems that you have to use depending on where you are. They wanted to unify that. A directive came from the Pentagon, and an Air Force officer was placed in charge of unifying that around 1973. A series of meetings held at the Pentagon and also at a hotel in Arlington, Virginia, led to this architecture, worldwide coverage, 24 satellites in 6 orbital planes at 55-degree inclination, a 12-hour period. I don't have to go into the technical details too much. The interesting thing about it is that we've been taught this evening has been all about stars. These are stars. They, unlike real stars, they are moving rather rapidly, but we know where they are because they're tracked very precisely. And if you know about navigation, if you remember that book by Dava Sobel about longitude, accurate time is very important. Accurate time now, instead of being held on the ship, is now on the satellites themselves, atomic clocks on the satellites. So in some ways, it's a continuation of a traditional method of navigation. The Bowditch's navigation tables, their equivalent, are stored in the memory of your receiver. So you've got this huge computer chip memory that can do all that and do the math. So you end up not having to do the calculations. You end up with a map or something like that. So that's sort of the origins. I'm going very quickly through this, obviously. It took a long time. It was on the verge of cancellation several times. A lot of people said, "Well, I've already got navigation. Why do I need all this?" But eventually, I would say by 1977, it proved itself. What I would call the equivalent of Samuel Morse's "What Hath God Wrought" in 1977. I won't go into that. The other interesting event was the Soviets shooting down a Korean civilian airliner, which had strayed off course. As a result, in 1983, President Reagan promised that GPS would be available to civilians and that wouldn't be taken away. That was a little premature, but it led to a commercial market developing, because if you were a company developing GPS, you knew that they wouldn't suddenly pull the rug out from under you. So initially, that was led to surveyors, other kinds of civilian uses. But what happened? This is where I'm getting very quickly toward the end here. It escaped. It escaped because it became so easy to use and so accurate that the Air Force, which ran it, didn't really know how to handle this civilian-military dichotomy. And I think we're still struggling with that now in some ways. And my predecessor mentioned jamming as just one of many issues that are coming up. The architects of GPS did not anticipate the smartphone and the microprocessor and the fact that you could carry this capability with you. So these events, all of which occurred within months of the development of GPS. The microprocessor, the first cell phone call, that's the brick. You probably, those of you who saw the movie Wall Street, there it is, 1973. The development of the protocols for the internet in September of 1973. All of these things came together to give you what hath Jobs wrought. And this is, I'll finish with this, I'll finish with this picture of a car that's driving down the Metropolitan Branch Trail, a rail trail right up the street here, because GPS told the driver to turn on there. So we've obviously lost the ability to read maps and to know where we are, but hey, that's the way it is. So thank you very much.